Beautiful. So Shavua Tov, everyone. Welcome. And we're on chapter 5 in Shmuel Aleph, Samuel 1. Just again, a recap of last chapter. If you remember, last chapter it's going to be the first or second pasuk was when we heard the name of Shmuel, and now suddenly Shmuel is not going to be mentioned for a couple of chapters, and then the narration goes into a war or a strife between the Philistines and the tribes of Israel. And not once but twice, the Israelites lose in battle, and they lose quite a bit decisively. And after the first battle, the Israelites decide, you know what, we need a little bit of God's backing, and they call for the Aron to be brought down to the battlefront, and they think that they're going to be victorious. What ends up happening is the Plishtim, the Philistines, not only defeat the Israelites and kill a great number of soldiers, but they also capture the Aron. They capture the ark, and they take it with them, and they bring it down to Ashdod. So from Even Ha'ezer, from Ebenezer, which we saw, they right now they traveled and they moved it to Ashdod. So without further ado, let's continue in chapter 5, and this is the continuation of that battle. And now we see what happens. The Philistines are all, yay, we won. Not only that, look what we brought. We even brought this amazing trophy with us, and we brought the ark, and they're bringing it to Ashdod. Uflishtim lakhu et Aron ha'Elohim. When the Philistines captured the ark, they brought it me'even ha'ezer Ashdod. They took it from Ebenezer, and they parked it in Ashdod. Vayikchu Plishtim et Aron ha'Elohim, vayaviu oto Beit Dagon. So in Ashdod, what they did was they brought the ark, and they brought it into the temple of Dagon. Vayatzigu to etzel Dagon, and there they set it up, or they offered it. They offered it up to Dagon. So what exactly is going on? This is the spoils. They want to almost show their god. Their god was Dagon. Now Dagon was the chief deity of the Philistines, and the worship of this pagan god dates back to 3rd millennium BC. And according to ancient mythology, Dagon was the father of Baal, which also is mentioned in the Torah. So it's another deity. This is the father of Baal, and he was like half fish, half man. That's kind of what, and I'll show you shortly a little bit depictions of Mesopotamia where they have depictions of what it looks like. But he was believed to be half man, half fish. I guess maybe this is kind of like a man-made mermaid kind of thing. This was the idea that fish and man evolved together, and all the great and wonderful attributes that fish have, that man controls it, etc. It could have been that it was the idea was to conquer the sea. The sea was, of course, seen as an like a barrier, but maybe to somewhat bring the unknown into on your side or on your favor. Now, there are a couple of places where Dagon is mentioned in the Bible. It was mentioned with Joshua it was mentioned in Judges, and it was also where the Dagon, if you remember, with Shimshon. Do you remember the story with Shimshon? He was brought into also the temple of Dagon, etc. And it was meant, and it will be mentioned again in a couple of other places as well throughout the Torah. The interesting thing, by the way, is that Dagon, the connection. Where do we have a fish in our tradition? What story has a fish?
Jonah.
Well, yeah,
Jonah.
obviously Jonah. Yeah.
Jonah. Excellent. So now let me try to make a full circle, so you'll see why. Ever wonder why did God want to bring Jonah with a fish? Okay, so I want to kind of make a full circle. So although Dagon is not mentioned in the book of Yonah, which we, by the way, read in its entirety on Yom Kippur in the afternoon, we are told that Jonah is to go to the Assyrians in Nineveh. And Nineveh actually was the home, perhaps not of Dagon, but they also had a form of this sister religion where their goddess or god was Nanshe, which was actually seen as the wife or the female counterpart of Dagon. So here now we understand why the transport was a great fish, where God controls, so to speak, the fish. In the fish, what do they have? They have this man who is going to deliver the word of God, and part of it was God's pity on the city. He didn't want to destroy it. That he kind of already hinted to them in a way, about the fish idea. And this is perhaps why no pun intended, why Jonah made such a big splash on Nineveh, and he had such an acute. This was a city that was lost, but he had such a wonderful effect on them that they actually repented, and that's the idea, of course, of Yom Kippur. But this is kind of like a full story of God using their symbol in terms of helping them to see it. And obviously it was a joke because Jonah's obviously walking on land, etc. But this is, you can see it in many different ways of the connection between Dagon, between Nanshe, between the fish, and what Jonah's travels are as well. So I don't know if you knew that. I found that quite amazing. And of course, the fish has nothing to do with the story, right? And nothing to do with saving it's just there and then it's gone. But it's the idea of to catch their attention. So let's continue. Any questions thus far? All right, so why are they bringing it again? He brings them into their temple in order kind of to offer their God a present. Look what we did. We caught the other God. So now they're bringing and they're putting the ark inside their temple. What happens in the next morning? Vayashkimu Ashdodim mimochorat. And the Ashdodites, those in the city, they wake up the following day. Vehine Dagon nofel lefanav arza lifnei Aron Adonai. And before them, they see the statue of Dagon falling and before the Ark of the Covenants. So what do? Vayekhu Dagon. They take the statue of Dagon. Vayashivu told him, come on, they erect him once again, they put him up and they fix him as it should be back on its pedestal. Following day, Vayashkimu vaboker mimachorat, and the following day, they wake up, Veine Dagon ofel lefanav arza. Once more, this big statue of Dagon has fallen before the ark. However, this time, Verosh Dagon ushte kapot yadav, and the head of the statue of Dagon and both his arms, kerutot el hamiftan. They were cut off, they were broken from the statue, and they were lying on the threshold. Rak Dagon nishar alav, only Dagon's trunk, the stomach, the midsection, was still left intact on its pedestal. And that's why, and here the text goes a little bit on a tangent. Alken, now we know the reason why. Lo yidruchu chonei Dagon, anyone who are the priests of Dagon, or the deity's heads, v'chol habaim beit Dagon, and anyone who enters the temple of Dagon, al miftan Dagon be'Ashdod, ad yom hazeh, no one would tread or step on the threshold in the temple of Ashdod, of Dagon, in Ashdod until this very day. In other words, now suddenly they're very superstitious. It was a bad thing. They did not see these two signs of what's happening with Dagon's with the big statue, but now they also have this new a new thing that they do ritually. They will not step upon the threshold in the temple of Dagon. Vatichbad yad Adonai el ha'ashdodim vaisimem, and the hand of the Lord lay very heavy upon the Ashdodites, Vayachotama bat chorim et Ashdod ve'et gevulea. And he struck Ashdod and all its territories and all its sister cities with, and here we have bat chorim. It's either some kind of bleeding ulcer, or as they here translated as hemorrhoids, or some kind of debasing and bleeding sickness or illness, or tumors. It was that simply not only debases, but in those days we will learn later on how this particular malady was treated, not in the nicest of ways. Okay, so in any event, they're all inflicted with this bat chorim. By the way, where is anybody? This is like a $100 question. Where else in the Torah do we mention bat chorim? Anyone idea?
Ben Chorim.
No, not Ben Chorim. Ben Chorim is free people. Ben Chorim. It's
yeah.
Bat Chorim. This right here. Right here.
So what is it?
Bat Chorim. It's actually written in the text this, and we read it that.
Oh.
Okay. It's Ktiv Uktav, which we've had before.
Yeah.
But where do we have Bat Chorim? Does anybody know?
Afela is the name, but I don't know.
Afilim is a certain period, but that's not the way we read it. We read Bat Chorim. It's mentioned in the Tochacha, in the rebuke. So twice in the Torah, Moshe warns the Israelites of misbehavior, and one of those sicknesses that God will bring should the Israelites not follow is Bat Chorim. God will inflict Bat Chorim. So it's actually mentioned in the Torah. And back to our story, we have this great infliction upon the people of Ashdod. Vayru anshe Ashdod kichen, and the people, the inhabitants of Ashdod, started to get really scared. And ve'amru lo yeshev Aron Elohei Yisrael imanu. We do not want that the Aron of Hashem remains here with us. We do not want it to remain here in the city. Ki kashtaya do aleinu. For now, we have seen that God's hand has dealt a very harsh blow to us, and also ve'al dagon Eloheinu, and He also inflicted. We now understand that not only did we get hit, but He even inflicted dagon not once but twice. So they're finally waking up. Vayishlechu vayasfut kol sarnei Felishtim alehem. They sent messengers, and they gathered all the lords, the heads of the different factions, of the different tribal factions of the Philistine. Vayamru manaseh la'aron Elohei Yisrael. They said, put a quandary. What are we to do now with the ark? Vayamru Gatisov. They came up with the idea that, you know what, we will take it to another city, to the city of Gat. Aron Elohei Yisrael yasebu et Aron Elohei Yisrael. And so let the ark be removed and brought to the city of Gat. And this is what they did via Sebu, and they took it, and they took the ark of God to Gath. So I just want to show you. See if I can, let's see.
Gat, here I see.
Does everybody see the maps?
Next to.
Do you see the maps?
Yes. Hezekiah here, Philistines.
Okay. So
I see on my screen.
Let me quickly show you.
Gat is here.
So
the white stuff here.
All right.
Gat.
So this is the travels of the Aron, the map on the left-hand side. So let me show you. So it started, the war was, they met in Abezer right here, or the ark started in Shiloh, was taken to Ebenezer, and it was captured in Afek, up here. It was then brought down to Ashdod, down here, in which they got inflicted. Now it's bring down to Gath, okay, or Gat. All right, this is where we are right now. Just by the way, there were 5 major cities in Plishtim. There were 5 major cities. Gat was one of them. Ashdod, Ashkelon, Gaza, and Ekron, which we will. Those were the 5 major cities, okay, in the Philistine territory. And so now we're going to see them. So the first, it was brought to Ashdod. Now we understand why. Ashdod was not just some kind of little tiny town. It was a major city. From there, it couldn't handle it. They brought it down now to Gath. So we have it here as well. You see from here, they brought it down to here. And we're going to mention it later on. Any idea? Gath was a very important city. Gat was where the Anakim are in the Torah. This is where they ended up moving. When Joshua kicked all the Anakim out, they all gathered and lived in the city of Gath. What were the Anakim? The Anakim were giants or very big people. We'd say I'm not sure what exactly what their lineage was, but these are really large people. There's a story of an Anak, a giant that had 6 fingers on every hand and 6 toes in every foot, 24, 20, 12. I guess he can do math better than all of us, or different on base 12, not just base 10, but he had 12 fingers, 12 toes. Another very, very famous Anak comes from Gat. Perhaps the most famous Anak. Anybody?
What's in it?
Anak is a giant.
Okay.
Who perhaps?
Well, Goliath.
Goliath. Excellent. Goliath was from the city of Gat. This is where we find ourselves right now. Of course, this is where the story of David later on, which we're going to read later on as well in Shmuel Bet, the story, and Gat comes up in the Tanakh quite a number of times. King David, before he becomes a king, he actually ends up actually hiding in Gath from the wrath of Shaul. And there are other stories as well that Gath is a city that is connected a lot in the Nevi'im. So we're going to see it later on. Okay, let me just actually show you now that I'm. Anybody wants to see? So Gat is down here. This on the left-hand side, this is a depiction of what Gat looks like. So it was a hilltop of a fortress type of a fortified city, with of course the rich or the elite, literally living on the top, and the more the second class, so to speak, somewhere in the middle, and the least or the poorest would be the ones that were exposed to any attack at first. And these are actually pictures of, and this is, by the way, I'm on the left-hand side, okay? These are actually pictures of excavation in what is now known as Gat. And on the left-hand side here is a depiction of an amulet from Mesopotamia of what Dagon looks like. So you can literally tell it's, I guess you can say Aquaman. The modern day Aquaman with a beard. Yes.
I ask you a question.
Yes.
What's the difference in size compared the Philistinian land to Gaza today?
So, good question. Gaza. So Philistine and Palestinian has nothing. They're not the same thing. 2 total different things.
Right.
2 total different things. And if anybody says no, it's here. I'll show you even in this is where Palestinian is. You see it? Philistia? Right?
Right.
See it?
Yes.
And Yehuda and Shomron is like somewhere here, okay? That's where there's also Palestinians claim to have their, okay?
Mm-hmm.
One has nothing to do with the other. Here, there were never Plishtim. But here, this is where their territory was, right here.
Gaza is it.
Yeah. Now, Gaza was their main was one of their major cities, and I'll show you. And the Gaza Strip of today is something like that.
Is that the same Gaza as it today? The same place?
Yes.
That's why I asked. Yeah, because
It's roughly here, I'll make it in a different color.
Much smaller.
This is roughly kind of what, actually,
Oh.
sorry, it's actually even more. It's something like that. Because this Nachal actually splits Gaza in half. It's
Uh-huh.
something of that nature.
Okay.
So it's not exactly, it's nothing to do with Palestinians. And I don't want to go there today. That's a different story. But Palestinian, the name Palestinian is not a native name to that land.
It's not Philistine. Palestinian and Philistine is not the same, right?
Not the same thing. No. Nothing to do. One has nothing to do. Might sound Philistia, but it's not. That's Plishtim, not Palestinian. Nothing to do with it.
Wasn't
Okay.
it the Romans that named it Palestine?
That is absolutely correct.
Yeah.
That is absolutely correct. And I don't know if you know your history, but Romans came way after this.
After the Philistines.
It was nothing to do with Philistines.
Right.
They named the entire place Plishtim. It's actually and it's part of it is a derogatory name. It was to make in those days you have to understand it was to show mastery. The same way that African slaves received derogatory names to debase them, to keep them feeling low, to make sure that they understood the classes. Also the land received, and all the inhabitants in there received the name of basically refugees. That's really what they are.
Philistine, right?
So if the Palestinians are refugees, they say that's their name, then where are they from? You have to, if you're a refugee, where are you from? You can't say I'm from there, but I'm a refugee and I live from in that land. You can't be a refugee from the land where you are from, by definition.
Arad, I see you. I see Arad. There is a city that was not. They built
Okay.
it 40 years
All right.
ago.
So let's
There was
continue.
a city,
Let's
Arad.
continue on with the story. So
go.
hold on one second. So here's on the left-hand side, as you say, this is somewhat the city. Of course, we're not talking about cities of the size of New York today, but these were considered very big and important sites for the Philistines. Okay, let's continue on in the text. Let's see if what we're doing. Now I'm trying to share. Beautiful. Here we go. All right.
Yeah.
So now it has traveled to Gat. Number 9. Vayhi acharei hesabu oto. Once they had moved the ark, Vathi yad Adonai ba'ir mehuma gdola me'od. Likewise in Gath, the hand of God created a great panic. Vayachet anshe ha'ir mikaton ve'ad gadol, and God struck all the inhabitants of the city, from the young to the very old. Vayisatru lahem bat chorim, and they broke out again with these chorim, hemorrhoids, or some kind of bleeding ulcer or bleeding tumor. Part of, by the way, the explanation of why it's particularly bleeding. Number 1, blood was the source of life. And there was only one time, there's only one time in humanity, in nature course, that bleeding is a source of life. Anybody, where is this?
In liver or things that we cook, we
No,
drain.
but where is in a human body, where is bleeding a normal?
Well, if you
In
have
the
your
vein.
period.
Exactly, beautiful. So and what is actually a period? A period is actually somebody who's supposed to be pregnant, right? So that's why, by the way, in Jewish law, why does a woman have to be mikveh? Why is, they become tameh when it's during a period? It's because what was supposed to give life was not used for that purpose. So it's actually, the more a thing has holiness attributed or holy potential, the more it actually can cause tum'ah. So in other words, a rock that has no no significance of holiness can't make you tameh. But a dead animal can, because it has the ability of your kosher animal. You can take it and use it as, not only eat it, but you can also take it as a korban. So the more holy potential holiness for something, the more actually it can give you a tum'ah. It's exactly the opposite. In other words, it's because it got spoiled, it actually can also spoil others. It's the potential was not reached, and therefore there is that tum'ah. But here also was seen as almost like their life was being sucked out of them.
What's tuma?
Tum'ah is impurity.
Right, impure.
Impurity. So there's
I-
tahara, which is purity. Tum'ah is impure, and has
I
nothing
want-
to do with, and has nothing to do with whether it's clean or dirty or unsanitary. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about a state of holiness, and anything that has potential. The greater the potential of something to be holy, the greater that item can make someone tameh. And I don't want to go there right now. That's a total different area of Judaism. But suffice it to say that that is also part of why, the mikveh and women have to go. It's because of that potential of what that there was a potential there, and that particular part of the month cycle was lost, sort of to the potential. That is why there is impurity associated with it.
Okay,
Does that
that's
make
good.
sense?
Yeah, why
So
do men go to the mikveh?
Pardon?
Why do men go to the mikveh?
So men also go to the mikveh. Also, if there is a seminal secretion, same thing. That would be, there's potential for what that could have been part of, and that also causes tum'ah. Exactly, it's exactly the same weight for what the ovulation is. It's exactly. I mean, both of them together create a creature, create a human being, which hopefully will follow the mitzvot, etc. And that is actually one of the highest potentials is the creation of a human being. So that is why any male has to get out of even the entire, if he's a soldier and has secretions, has to go out of the camp. The potential of him, making others tameh is very great. And it's nothing to do again with whether it's, well, he's not dirty and it's a natural thing. It's nothing to do with the natural or unnatural. Of course, it's a natural thing. It's the idea of the potential of what was lost with that. In other words, we look at what was lost at that moment, and we recognize that is a giver of life. And the giving of life, that has the potential of something great, and therefore it can actually cause more tumah than a regular thing. Okay?
Can I ask another question?
Absolutely.
Why was the ark moved around like this?
So absolutely, and that's the whole story is that it's brought from Afek. It's brought down to Ashdod as a trophy. The people in the city get inflicted. They put together. They realize, hey, one morning the statue falls. The next morning the statue not only falls, but now the arms break and all that stuff. And then suddenly they are inflicted with some kind of disease. They're putting it together. They say, hey, this is ever since the Aron, ever since the ark came here, we're being inflicted. Get it out of our city. We don't want it. So now they took it from Ashdod. They're bringing it to Gath. Suddenly the same cycle happens, right? So what happened? What's going to happen? What do you think is going to be the response to the people from Gath? What are they going to say?
Get it out of here.
Get it out of here. So let's read number 10. Vaishalchu et Aron Elohim Ekron. And the people from Gath said, heck, get this thing out of we don't want it. So they send it off to Ekron. Again, that's one of the 5 major cities of the Plishtim. Vahikev Aron Elohim Ekron. Just as the ark arrived in Ekron, Vaizaku HaEkronim Le'emor. the Ekronites started yelling and said, Hesabu elai et Aron Elohei Israel. They have moved the ark. They've brought it to us. Lamiteni tami. Are you kidding? We heard what happened in Ashdod. We heard what happened in Gath. Are you sending it now to by the way, this is not Akron, Ohio, okay? Just to make sure this is Phil in Plishtim. And let me just also actually show you.
Okay.
Akron, map.
So here are, why can't I pull it down? So here we have the little brown map on the right-hand side. It started off in Ashdod, moved to Gat, now we're up to Akron. Do you see it? So it's kind of like a triangular, and if you look at it, the distance is roughly about 20 kilometers between all of them. Okay?
Oh, it's
If you
there.
want to look, Akron, again, similarly to Gath, is also kind of on a hilltop. A hilltop was seen as a measure of defense. And this is actually, on the bottom left, is actually a picture of somewhat of what the city actually looks like, or remnants of it. And on the right-hand side is actually a place that was dug, an archaeological find somewhere near here. Could be a little bit on the outskirts, but nonetheless, there were definitely life there. It's not; these are not made up places. These are actual places, which you can, by the way, Google, and you can find them. It's actually quite interesting. Let's.
So means that the ark, is this saying that the ark belongs in Jerusalem?
So Farla, you're ahead of the game. Hold on. Let's
Sorry.
let's go through this. Excellent. So now we're having the Akronim, who are the people of Ekron right now, who are starting to shudder. So they're crying out, why are you bringing the Aron to us, basically? Why? Are you bringing it to us because you want to kill us? So Vaishalchu vayasfu et kol sarnei Flishtim. Likewise, they went and they gathered all the tribesmen, the head of the different tribes of Plishtim. Vayomru shalchu et Aron Elohei Israel ve'ashov limkomo. And they said, please, just take and send this Aron, send this ark back to where it belongs. V'lo yamitoti vetami. For I don't want it to kill me and my people. Ki haytam mehumat mavet bechol ha'ir. The moment that the ark arrived, there was an upheaval of death in the city. Kavda me'od yad Adonai yad Elohim sham. For the hand of God was heavy there too. So in other words, the moment that they didn't have the next morning, it was immediate. The moment that the ark came to Ekron, right away there was a huge plague that killed and was caused a lot of havoc. V'hanashim asher lo metu, and those people who didn't die within this infliction, huku bat chorim, they were stricken with this malady, as is translated here as hemorrhoids. Vatal shavat ha'ir hashamayim, and the outcry, the helplessness of the city rose up to heaven. And this is chapter 5. So we see right now a reversal. They leave. The Philistines are leaving with victory and the spoils and the trophy. And now we see the entire desecration or the dismantle of not only their psychological being, but also physically in terms of their infliction. By the way, the reason why why would be also Tchorim? Why is this hemorrhoids? And it's not quite hemorrhoids of what we know today. This is a real malady of the rectal area, where where a lot of, I read a lot of commentaries, etc., where a lot of these people, when they used to have a bleeding ulcer or something, they always used to put some kind of animal. So, you know, there's they had the places where if you had a certain you know, wound, you would put a leech, right? Have you ever seen, have you heard of that? Right, a leech. Why? Because the leech will suck it, all the yuckies out, and then eventually close, also be able to close that insertion. So you know what was the part of the remedy for hemorrhoids? Anybody want to guess? It's a little bit gruesome, but I read it I read it in a couple. It was actually putting some kind of rodent, a mouse, particularly a mouse, where, and I don't know if you heard, but you know, if you heard people, you know, putting up, you know, for pleasure, whatever it is, things, this actually came to be. They were seen as, how were they going to get there, you know? And so they would it was extremely painful. It was very, very a bit belittling and demeaning. Can you imagine you have to go somewhere and somebody has to put up some kind of rodent up there? And
No.
not only that, I don't think these were trained mice that knew what to do necessarily. So it could have been that they died a gruesome death, being eaten from the inside out, as the mouse wants to return also out, right? The mouse has nothing to do with being stuck in the intestine. So it was a really gruesome effect, and you will see this play out later on. When I said mice, you will see it, and that is why later on you will see the connection of mice to the story. Any question? I'm sorry. I hope you're not planning to eat supper anytime soon, or have eaten in the last 5 or 10 minutes. Because I please close your camera off. No, I'm kidding. It's the idea is that they were debased. They were not only inflicted, but they were inflicted with a very debasing type of malady that which we'll see the connection later on as the story progresses. So it's a short but I can't say sweet, but I guess this is really quick in terms of the maneuver of the ark, and the next stage will be where the ark starts on its journey back to its proper place. So we see that.
Not related. How do we say hemorrhoids in Hebrew today?
Some people still say bat chorim. It's not hemorrhoids.
Okay.
it is chorim.
Okay.
Yeah, it's but it's interesting that in the text it's written ba'afilim. Do you see it?
Right. Yeah.
It's not bat chorim, but it's read bat chorim. And it's contrived. It's a very interesting thing. In the maladies that are biblical, even when we have lice, for instance, in the 10 Commandments, there are lice, there are boils. They're maladies with intent. In other words, it's not just, oh, you know, you're going to catch you're going to have headaches, or you'll have some. They are maladies with quite a bit of meaning to them. And again, one is the idea of bleeding, which is seen as losing life to begin with. It was also seen, you know, in those days, if you were likened like a woman, I'm being, you know, can you imagine the big warriors are being likened like women? You're also bleeding. It's a debasement. In other words, you have no defense, right? Your big warriors now have become just little girls, you know. So it was also shaming kind of thing in terms of for the populace there. And I'm talking about in terms of context of bringing it to you know, 3,000 years ago of the difference between men and women. Of course, we know women today. You know, you look at Israel; they're tank drivers who are women. I know that. You know, like any position they can. We've come a long way from there to today. In those days, the women were the weaker ones. You know, you didn't want to be seen if you were masculine. You didn't have any female attributes. You were masculine. You know, and of course we know we've come a long way to understand that we're made of both. So more of this than more of that. And we need both. But in those days, it was a big symbol that they lost their their strength. They lost their masculinity. They lost their ability to protect to protect. This was a victory, an army victory, and then the army is brought down to be worthless. So it shows them it was not their strength that beat the Israelites. This is what God wanted. Can you see it in a roundabout way?
Yes,
In
yes.
other words, it's not their might and their strength. God brought them down to low, and they understand that it was their God. That's why they don't want now the ark. They want to have back normal society. They're willing to go back to pre-ark life. Great question.
Does-
Anybody?
Yeah, does that have anything to do with Afela, Aflim? No connection.
Yeah, Afila is also Afila is not being able to see, right? Afel is Arafel comes from no, when Arafel is no in no what when you draw fog Arafel is fog. What is fog? When you don't see clear, when it's there in front of you, it's in other words, it's not hidden from you, but you can't simply see it. Something is between you. There's so it has to do with it could be alluding to the fact that it was mysterious in terms of this was not, it's a regular it's not an irregular sickness, so to speak. It's not like some kind of miraculous like pest that we don't know whatever it was out of this world, but there was a hidden message here, which they're starting to pick up on. Excellent point, Tamara. Anybody else?
No.
So let me just